for them to be active in 2050, 2060, for their kids to be active in 2090, 2100? What would be your best advice? So 2 more questions, and one from Arnarp and one from the front bench. And I'm rounding off. So Arnarp, please.
Hey. I'm Michael Löbmann. I'm from Germany and study agroecology in Alnap. My question is rather political, actually, because Hans, you mentioned that sustainable agriculture is an economic question. And I mean, we need to cooperate in the whole world for have real sustainable agriculture, but we have these strong forces from economy fighting actually against these cooperations. So my question is, how are the perspectives of capitalism for sustainable agriculture in the world?
Agriculture is an economic activity with biological consequences. If we didn't have a need of food, we wouldn't have agriculture. We would play around and pick wild fruits. When we started agriculture, we were 10 million, wasn't it? Just the Swedes. If you like ecology without agriculture, you kill everyone except the Swedes and they inhabit the world. That's it. Then we increased, agriculture increased the population 100 times. Industrial revolution will only increase it 10 times. Agriculture was the big thing. So we have an economy. If you want a planning economy and everything, yeah, try it. Lenin tried it, he failed. What is it, Václav Havel said, the only reason we accept capitalists for one single day is because we have tried the alternative. We don't have anything. It's the only game in town, the market economy. You have to regulate it. We have to regulate it. I can tell you one thing, it was the head of Electrolux who said about washing machines in an internal meeting for his leaders. He said, we are going to make the most environment-friendly washing machines ever made with the lowest energy consumption, the kindest detergent, and the lowest water yield because I know regulation will come. You see, the market economy cannot do it on their own. It's only that the clever leader of a company will know that the evidence he heard from Johan, the evidence he read from other sides, he said they are so convincing. So sooner or later, the democratic system or the political system is going to understand it. They are going to put regulations in place. And if I want to sell washing machine that day, I already want to have them in my production system. But business won't solve it. We have to regulate it for them. And that is the solution with this. I think I can see no other way than living with a market economy in the future, but it has to be heavily regulated. And today we have, the control is by IMF. And IMF does not let the world economy enter. I told you half the world economy is outside the OECD. And the OECD runs IMF of their own without any Chinese influence. Now, this year, after the football cup, the BRICS country, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, created their own IMF in Shanghai. For some reason, you choose to show Shanghai instead of London when it was environmental on your photo there. Yes, that's why the new is regular. It's very dangerous to have two systems that try to regulate them in the world. But we have to regulate, we have to control it, we have to be clever. But I don't think we will have planned economy, because that has proven over and over again to not function. I had the privilege to work in Cuba in 1990s. I've never seen such an environmentally unsuccessful agricultural system with old heavy tractors using lots of diesel and fossil fuels. So nowhere has planning economy proved to be more clever. But wild, uncontrolled capitalism, oh God save us from that. Or anyone else, that to be regulated.
I fully agree with this. Regulated market economy and regulate at the global scale. Yeah. Sweden needs to step up to support global regulations, which can support exactly this transition.
Now the final question from the audience. One of our participants from Ethiopia, if I'm correct.
Yeah, thank you very much. My question is both the environment and the population presentations are very important. Of course, major parts of Africa where a majority of people are living in rural areas and depend on agriculture. Most of them are unemployed. And largely their agriculture is based on rainfall, natural resources, expansion of land, forest destruction, so on and so forth, and energy. Still, people who are living in urban areas are using charcoal that is cut and transported to urban areas by rural people who are unemployed, whose livelihood is very low. And still, adaptation and mitigation are very important, but people are living unemployed and no social protection as their old age, and because of that, they want to increase their child number to increase their income. How do you see all these things, and how your discussions coincide, support each other? Thank you.
Yeah, that's very good. We have the privilege of working very actively with partners in Ethiopia on sustainable intensification of agriculture. So my first part of the answer is that we see, and I think there's a lot of evidence to support, enormous untapped potentials to drastically improve productivity and livelihoods among rural communities in Ethiopia and beyond, without undermining ecosystems, forests, fresh water, land, but by investing more on current land. And I think the Agricultural Transformation Agency, ATA, in Ethiopia is an example of such an effort of really trying to transform agriculture towards more productive, sustainable intensification. So that is about lifting economic growth and livelihood opportunities for those living in the rural areas. Then, of course, Ethiopia is a country that is growing in a very, very fast way, which is overall positive, which of course will lead to more urbanization. And the challenge then is, how do you build sustainable, urban, livable urban regions? And here I'm actually quite concerned. I think each time I go to Addis, it's shocking how fast it's growing. But at the same time, how evident it is that it's growing almost in an uncontrolled way. And I think that's an enormous responsibility and opportunity we have to now connect biodiversity thinking, resilience thinking, social thinking in building, the urban cities of the future that will also support humans in a good way in the future. 2/3 of the cities in the world that we need in 2050 are not built yet, and that is another part of this equation, which I think we haven't discussed so much here, but which connects very much with agriculture, because there's, in my mind, a continuum between the rural and the urban. There's not a divide between the two. So it's not a satisfactory answer to your entire complex, but it's at least to say that there are opportunities both in the rural and the urban space, I think, in terms of combining demographics, economic growth, and sustainability.
Can I have my image? This was Ethiopia 40 years ago, 7 children per woman, 237, 250 children dying. I mean, every 4th child was dying. What has Ethiopia achieved? I have to say then first that data are not very good from Ethiopia. There have been several surveys. And so we know that this is what has happened in Ethiopia. Here we go. Quite impressive, isn't it? Ethiopia has gone more than half the way from 8 children in there and is down here. And if I would have split the bubble, I would find Addis down on 1.6 children per woman in Addis Ababa, lower than Scotland. Because you said no social networks, no families in Addis, modern Ethiopian families are very meager income, they plan out to have very few children. It's the most successful expansion of family planning in the world by communities, professionals, government, and with support of that. I was humbled when I was invited by the Minister of Health to talk to the leaders of the health service system, highly qualified technical people. What makes me so positive for Ethiopia is the capacity of the leading Ethiopians who have a chance to go. Therefore, I won't give any advice, because I know you are yourself doing this. I know enough about Ethiopia to know that I know less than thousands and thousands of Ethiopians, so I couldn't add anything. I could just help you to understand the challenge. Now, yet with this is the population, 40 million below 15 years of age, and the population pyramid looks like this. 90 million today in Ethiopia. This is now counting on this fast food, which will continue with fertility rate. Ethiopia will hit 200 millions there. It will be bigger than Russia at this point, and it will. Here you see the children will start decreasing, and then Ethiopia will fill up of adults. Remember the big fill up of adults, and it will end up being more or less the same state of the United States of America. It's an immense challenge you have in front of you, but you also have an immense capacity now of the train in Ethiopia, and you manage to keep peace in the country. What has been debated in the Swedish media about Ethiopia doesn't give any understanding of the country, neither of the success or of the challenges. And hasn't it been these good things done the last 20 years? It didn't solve the problem, but it put Ethiopia at least in a position where it can continue to solve it with all these challenges. So if we just start to charge now 1 cent on each cup of coffee drank in the world, you get the money you need, because it came from you, the coffee, wasn't it? So it's a big contribution. So yes, it can be done, but it's really challenging, and it has to be done in a clever way, all the way.
Thank you very much. And I think we are now approaching